Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Dan Knowlton and his brother Lloyd jointly run Knowlton Marketing. It's an agency that specialises in advertainment, and this has been getting great results for their clients. They get great results from their networking too, and speak at events not just in this country, but around the world. Thanks very much for being my podcast guest today, Dan.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, you currently run a marketing agency with your brother, which we'll talk about in a minute. But what did you do before that? What's your background, and have you always been in the marketing space?
Good question. It depends how far you want to go back, but immediately before starting the agency, I worked at a company called Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Oh, yeah.
You may have seen the ads, "We'll pick you up" is their kind of slogan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I did a graduate management scheme there. Just after getting out of university, I basically applied to loads of jobs. No one wanted to hire me except them, so I decided to work there.
And how was that?
The honest answer is it was a great experience up until a point. I learned a huge amount about running a business, about customer service, sales, teamwork, a whole range of things. And I got promoted a couple of times, but I think the honest thing that happened is I got promoted too quickly, was kind of over my head, and was managing a team of like 7 people and 200 plus cars within 8 months of joining the company. Wow. And got incredibly stressed and sort of had a bit of a breakdown and quit and moved back in with my parents.
Right.
And
were they pleased to have you back, Dan?
They were. I think they were just worried about me, so they just said, "Come home." So yeah, they were really pleased to have me back. But everything's fine now. That was like 8 years ago. So
yeah. And so, how did you come to set up your own business then? What was the catalyst for that?
So after moving back in with my parents, after working at Enterprise, my dad actually sat me down and he sort of said, "Look, you've got 2 options. You either go and find another company to work for." Mm-hmm. And I was sort of in my mind like, I definitely don't want to do that. I've just come from a big corporate and eventually ended up hating my life there.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that. And he said, or you could start your own sort of business and start trying to get your own clients and do it that way. And I just said, yep, I'm doing the second one. And started in working from my parents' spare room back in 2015 or 2016. And that's how it began, really, because I didn't want to get a job.
Yeah, fair enough. And so what was it that attracted you to doing marketing? Well,
I did a business management with marketing degree at the University of Brighton prior to the job at Enterprise. But to be honest, I didn't really learn a huge amount about marketing, which sounds strange. But I feel like I just learned how to pass an exam.
Yeah.
So I did lots of work I guess first year at university, I didn't try very hard, almost failed and almost got kicked out. And then that was the kind of kick up the bum to really try in year 2 and 3, where I actually spent a lot of time learning how to pass an exam and write essays. And then I managed to get a first somehow.
Wow.
But even so, I really don't feel like I learned a lot about marketing. But I did have an interest in it.
Yeah.
And so I guess that was the first thing, thinking I've done a degree in this. Why don't I, start exploring this? And when I started our agency from my parents' spare room, I basically Googled, how do you get clients? How do you get customers? What's working in 2015 or whatever?
Yeah.
And just started reading tutorials and applying what I'd learned to my own sort of Twitter account, and that was where it all began, really.
Yeah. That's sad, really, isn't it, that you spend all that time and all that money getting a degree and then it doesn't actually prepare you for the world of work.
Yeah, I guess it's all, on reflection. I have sort of made it sound really bad. I did the classic cliche, like I found myself and made lots of friends and had lots of experiences that shaped me as a human being. But I do think that if I was just to look at my progression in the marketing world, I think I would have been better off starting at an agency when I was 18 at an entry level and gaining experience that route. But you never know what would be different if I would have done that.
Yeah.
You know, all the experiences I gained may have meant that I wouldn't have started a business and I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm very happy today. So it's all on reflection, really.
Yeah. So I mentioned at the start that you work with your brother. How did that come about?
That came about, so after I started the agency, after hating my job, he also hated his job, basically. So he hated his job, and I remember we used to go on lots of walks together and things to hang out at the weekends, and he was sort of telling me about how much he hated his job, and I was just sort of said, why don't you do what I did, and why don't we try and work together? And he's got lots of differing skills to me, and we sort of thought, you're good at this, I'm not good at that, vice versa. Why don't we try and work together? And so he quit his job, and we started both working from our parents' spare room, and that's how we started.
Yeah. So what's his background then? What had he been doing up to that point?
A variety of things. So immediately prior to sort of us starting the business together, he was managing a number of English language schools around the country. Very random. He kind of worked at an English language school in varying roles throughout the years, but that was kind of what he did before. He also actually did a degree and trained to become a primary school teacher, but in his final year he basically decided he didn't want to become a primary school teacher, so that was a bit of, again, a waste of time, really. But
there's a pattern emerging here.
Yes, I feel like maybe us Knowltons aren't good at choosing career paths or education paths.
So what's it like working with your brother? Do you get on really well?
We do. We really do. This is like the classic question that a lot of people ask of, like, you know, people relate to, I've got a brother or sister, I would never work with them. And we honestly get on so well. This is really sad, Liz, but we work together 5 days a week, and we spend every working hour together. We play squash with each other in the evenings throughout the week. We see each other at the gym. Our families see each other at the weekends. So we literally spend all of our lives together, and we just both get on really well. It's
That's
nice.
really good. That's really good. So tell me how the business has grown. I mean, presumably you're not in your parents' spare room anymore.
No, although that was good up to a point. I think it got to a point where my mum was kind of hoovering in the backgrounds when we're trying to pretend to be professional business people. We sort of saying, "Boys, would you like a cup of tea?" And we're like, "No, mum." And we also, so we hired, the first person we hired was our cousin. So that was all right in our parents' spare room because it's our cousin. Then we hired our Lloyd's friend's girlfriend, and that was okay. But then we sort of thought, when we needed to hire our next person, and it was someone we didn't know, we couldn't have strangers in our parents' house. It would just be a bit odd. So we got an office in like an industrial unit. We sort of renovated a whole office space and moved in there. And now we're around, how many are we now? So in the office, we're around, I think around 11 or 12. We're hiring for 3 roles at the minute as well, and there's about 3 or 4 remote sort of people working for us as well.
Fantastic. So let's have a chat about your business now then. Who are your clients? What kind of businesses come to you?
It's a real mix. So the ones we like to really shout about are the kind of brands that everyone would have heard of. So we've worked with the BBC, we've worked with Sunny D, the drinks brand, Wall, the kind of Clipper brand, Citibank we work with lots of kind of well-known brands in lots of industries. We also have worked with a whole range of brands you would have never heard of that are slightly smaller than that in lots of different industries as well. So it really is a real mix between B2B, C, lots of different industries as well.
Yeah. And what do you do for your clients?
So we support them with their marketing is the very simplistic answer. But I guess in terms of what we specialise in, we really specialise in anything focused around social media, video and content production, working with influencers, running paid ads on those platforms. There's really our team's sort of grown now with lots of different skill sets. So there's lots of things we can do, but anything where a brand is trying to reach and engage large audiences of people in a creative way, that's what we kind of specialise in.
Yeah. And how would you say that you're different from other marketing agencies?
Oh, this is the golden question, isn't it? It really is down to our approach. So in 2017, we discovered this unique approach to marketing that we call advertainment, or sort of entertaining advertising. And we basically had tried lots of different approaches to marketing when we started the business. Some of them worked okay, some not so well. And then in 2017, we created this testimonials video to help us drive new business. And we made it, testimonials videos tend to be quite dry and boring, but we made it fun and entertaining. We basically went out and shot interviews with our actual customers to get that kind of credibility of real customers saying, Knowlton are great to work with. But Lloyd and I also dressed up as different characters with wigs and fake mustaches and pretended to be our own customers, commenting on how brilliant it is to work with Dan and Lloyd. And it was kind of had a comedic script, and it was fun. And we posted it online. We cut the fake interviews in between the real interviews and created this 5-minute testimonials video. And at the end of the 5-minute testimonials video, we had some text pop up on screen that said, "You've literally been watching an advert for our marketing agency for 5 minutes. Imagine what we could do for you."
Yeah.
And we posted this online, and it blew up and generated more business for us than anything we'd ever tried in the past. And that was the real kind of light bulb moment for us, where it's like, we can actually create marketing content and campaigns that people enjoy consuming, and they drive a commercial benefit.
Yeah.
And we sort of named it advertainment or entertaining advertising. And that's really at the heart of what we do for a lot of the brands we work with: create really great campaigns that people enjoy consuming and either generate millions of pounds of trackable revenue or reach and engage millions of people in creative ways. That's what we're sort of focused on.
Yeah. And I liked something that I read on your LinkedIn profile, which said you're on a mission to rid the world of crap marketing. So what is crap marketing and how can it be avoided?
Yes, well found, yeah. So I think the reason we discovered this approach that we call advertainment, producing campaigns that people enjoy consuming, is because we were frustrated with our lives being disrupted with annoying marketing or annoying sales. People trying to sell us things that we didn't want in boring ways that took up our time. So I think crap marketing is anything that disrupts someone's life and leaves them with a negative feeling of your brand. Whereas good marketing is anything that leaves someone completely new that may have never seen anything that you've created in the past, that leaves them with a positive feeling, thinking, that was cool, that was good. And it can be entertaining and fun. It could make them feel inspired. It could make them feel informed. Anything that triggers some kind of emotion that leaves a positive feeling with your brand is good marketing in my eyes.
Yeah, make people feel something. That's kind of the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I know that you're also a podcast host. So what's your podcast about and who is it for?
So our podcast is called Business Anchors, and it's not for the faint-hearted. It's very uncorporate and informal, and basically Lloyd and I, we're brothers and co-founders. So Lloyd and I sit down and we share lessons we're learning whilst growing our agency. We share lots of stories, and it's very unfiltered. So I feel like a lot of things in the marketing world are sort of people pulling the wool over your eyes, and we kind of just say it how it is on the podcast and say our honest opinion on these things. And it's really for marketers, business owners, founders who are looking to learn. We speak about topics, anything from how we're integrating AI within our business to overtake our competitors, to how we're dealing with stress, to new marketing channels and tactics that we've tried and tested that have worked, to things that we've completely mucked up. We just released an episode around our biggest mistakes from 2023, one of which 1 month last year we lost tens of thousands of pounds, and we made a huge mistake and talked about that and the lessons we learned, and a whole variety of things.
Yeah. And how long's the podcast been going?
Good question. The podcast has been going, I think, since February 2020. So I think that's in its 4th year now.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Excellent. So the other thing that I know you do is called the Friday Club. Tell me about that and what that is.
Yes, the Friday Club. So the Friday Club is just a fancy way of saying a weekly email newsletter. But we wanted to brand it something fun. So we called it the Friday Club. But it's where every week I share all the best content, resources, apps, tools, tips around marketing and business that we've discovered or created each week. I've basically got a folder in my calendar where anytime I consume a piece of content, could be a podcast, could be a report, could be a video, or something else that I think, wow, that is really cool. I put it into this folder and then basically write a weekly email where that summarises very briefly all of those key pieces of content that have been really great, and send that out each week, and that's the Friday Club.
Well, I've just subscribed, so I'll find out on Friday.
Good, yeah, I hope you like it.
So let's talk about networking now, which is what my podcast is about. Now, you and I had a chat some weeks ago, and what you said about networking was it was something that you got wrong at first. So what was it that you did wrong?
Good question. So our first ever Business Anchors podcast was about networking. So I definitely recommend listening to episode 1. Mm-hmm. There's lots of stories and things we share in there that answers your question in huge depth. So that's the first thing. But to answer you here on the podcast, what did we get wrong? I think we focused our time and energy in the wrong places. I think we were thinking then a lot smaller than we should have been. And I think it's only because we were early on in our business journey. But yeah, I don't think we went to the right events or the right places and met the right people. I'm sort of being quite negative here. Met some lovely people and had some really great experiences. But on reflection, I feel like a big chunk of that time could have been better spent in more of the right places with people that were more relevant to our business, I guess. Does that make sense?
So what would you say are the right places for your business?
Good question. We've also just done a whole podcast about this recently. One of our recent episodes talked about how to find the right events to go to and things like that. So definitely check that out. But the right places, I think, are so for us it kind of comes in 2 parts. Firstly, are events where other people in our industry go who are ahead of us or who we aspire to achieve similar things to them. So there's an event we spoke at last year and went to called Agency Hackers Ibiza Super Summit, and it was for basically agency owners, and there was lots of very successful agency owners, a lot more successful than us, that we learned a huge amount from to support our business. So some may see them as competitors, but really it was other people who have achieved what we want to achieve, and they were very open, sharing advice and tips and things. So that's one category of sort of networking event. I guess the other is events where our ideal target market are spending time. Yeah. So things like other industry events, other events around social media marketing, where people who are in our industry, who are sort of senior marketers from brands, that's where we want to spend our time. Yeah,
and you mentioned that you were speakers at that first event that you were talking about. Do you find that that's a really helpful way to get connected to other people?
Yes. So definitely. I mean, speaking at an event, it almost fast tracks a lot of the trust building, because unless you deliver something that puts people off, which I think most people would prepare and not do that, then you're subconsciously, people already trust you if you're just standing on a stage and speaking to them, which sounds kind of bad, but naturally people will just assume this person is speaking to us on a stage, so they must know what they're doing. So that kind of fast tracks the whole trust building, relationship building part. It also helps you engage with everyone at the event. So
Yeah.
in most cases at networking, you don't have time to go and speak to everyone because you're having, nice conversations with individuals, and you don't want to go around and spend, 10 seconds with everyone. But if you're speaking, then you automatically can communicate with everyone in the room, and most people want to come and speak to you after. So
Yeah.
that's another point.
Yeah. So how much time do you devote to networking now, would you say? Do you still do it, or do you get some of your team to go and do networking on your behalf?
Good point. So we don't actually get any of our team to do networking on our behalf. And in terms of how much time we spend, it varies month to month. But, there's months when things are lots of time spent networking. So, for example, last year, I think it was September, when we went to the Ibiza event, in a period of about 4 weeks, we went to the Ibiza event. I went to LA to an Adobe event because we're Adobe ambassadors, and did lots of networking there. I spoke in Jersey at an event, and there was something else. And Social Day, another event in London. So that was like a crazy month of, spending lots of time in prepping and meeting people and things. But then other months, like I'm trying to think, even January this year, I probably haven't done a huge amount at all. So it really varies month to month, but try and dedicate at least a sort of day a month.
Yeah.
Ish. That's very rough, but it varies month to month.
Yeah. Okay, so finally then, Dan, if people want to know more about you and your agency, what is the best place for them to find you?
The place I'm probably most active is LinkedIn. If you just search my name, Dan Knowlton, Knowlton, you'll see post content regularly there, and but we've also got our website, knowltonmarketing.co.uk. Our podcast, just search Business Anchors in your favourite podcasting platform, or The Friday Club. Just search The Friday Club on Google or on our website, and you'll find that there as well.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, Dan.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.